ancient bloodline. The tragedy of Nagini begins long before she was born, with a blood curse older than memory itself. The Maledictus curse is passed exclusively from mother to daughter, binding generations of women to a fate they can neither avoid nor break. Unlike an animagus, who chooses when to shift, or a werewolf, who transforms by moonlight, a Maledictus's change is slow and permanent. Each transformation chips away at her humanity until only the creature remains. The curse is believed to have originated in Southeast Asia, where ancient dark magic once fused human and animal essence. It infects the bloodstream, rewriting the very magic that defines a person's form. A Maledictus can initially control her change, slipping between human and beast at will. But the longer she lives, the more control fades. The transformation becomes involuntary, then irreversible. Nagini's inherited curse destined her to become a serpent, a symbol of both power and imprisonment. Over time, her thoughts, voice, and emotions would blur with her animal side. By the time she reached adulthood, her condition was no longer a myth or superstition. It was a ticking clock counting down her final days as human. But where did this cursed child come from? And how did her story begin? Born cursed. Nagini's early life is a mystery wrapped in fragments of lore and whispers of tragedy. She was likely born around the turn of the 20th century, somewhere in Southeast Asia, possibly Indonesia, where stories of blood curses and shapeshifters were part of the region's magical folklore. Her family line carried the Maledictus curse, and though it's unknown whether her parents were wizards or muggles, what's certain is that the curse did not discriminate. It marked her from birth. As a child, Nagini would have shown the first signs of the curse through subtle, involuntary transformations, scales forming on her skin, her voice slipping into hissing tones, her eyes reflecting serpentine patterns in certain light. In isolated magical communities, such symptoms invited fear rather than help. To many, a Maledictus was both cursed and dangerous, a reminder of dark magic best left forgotten. Nagini's mother likely tried to hide her daughter's condition, but secrecy could only last so long. Each passing year made the curse harder to conceal. Her transformations became more frequent, her recovery slower. By adolescence, Nagini was living between two worlds, human and serpent, yet belonging to neither. And when fear turned to exploitation, her curse became her cage. Circus Arcanus. By the time Nagini reached adulthood, the curse had stolen her freedom as much as it had her body. Captured by a traveling wizarding troupe known as the Circus Arcanus, she was forced into a life of exploitation. The circus, run by a man named Skender, toured the wizarding world showcasing human oddities, magical beings, and cursed individuals displayed as curiosities for paying crowds. Nagini was their star attraction, branded not as a victim of dark magic but as a spectacle. The enchanting snake girl. Each night, under glaring lanterns and the jeers of strangers, she was made to transform on command. Her metamorphosis from woman to serpent was treated like entertainment, her suffering repackaged as wonder. Skender's cruelty knew no limits. Any hesitation or resistance was met with confinement and humiliation. Behind the curtains, Nagini endured the constant dread of losing control. That one night, she would fail to return to her human form at all. The circus offered her no sympathy, only chains and applause. Yet even in captivity, her humanity lingered. She comforted other outcasts, tended to wounded creatures, and dreamed of escape. That escape finally came, through an unexpected ally with a dark secret of his own. Cursed alliance. After fleeing the Circus Arcanus, Nagini found herself in the company of Credence Barebone, another soul burdened by forces he could not control. Credence, an obscurial born from repression and abuse, was consumed by a parasitic dark energy that threatened to destroy him. To Nagini, his torment felt familiar. Both were victims of conditions they never chose, feared by others, and uncertain of who or what they truly were. Their bond grew not from romance, but shared loneliness. Together, they searched for identity. Credence seeking his family, Nagini searching for a cure or at least understanding. Traveling across Europe, they became fugitives from both wizarding authorities and the shadows of their own curses. Nagini often restrained Credence's destructive impulses, guiding him with empathy born from her own suffering. Their fragile hope unraveled when they encountered Gellert Grindelwald in Paris. The dark wizard saw in Credence a weapon, not a person, and manipulated his need for belonging. Nagini, sensing the trap, tried desperately to pull him away from Grindelwald's influence. Her compassion marked her as one of the few lights in that dark time, a woman fighting fate while watching someone she cared for slip into its grasp. But destiny had other plans, and her curse was nearly ready to strike, becoming the snake. Nagini's freedom was fleeting. The Maledictus curse, relentless and irreversible, continued to tighten its grip. At first, she could still shift between forms with effort, each transformation leaving her weaker, her voice raspier, her eyes more reptilian. But every return to humanity took longer, and each reversion felt less complete. The line between woman and serpent was blurring beyond repair. As time passed, her body began to change permanently. Her movements grew slower, her speech fractured into hisses, and her emotions dulled beneath the creeping instincts of the beast she was becoming. The final transformation likely came without warning. Perhaps one night, when exhaustion and despair silenced her will, and the serpent within simply never released her again. Trapped in her snake form, Nagini's human mind did not vanish entirely. Flickers of memory lingered. Voices, faces, and fragments of the person she once was. But those memories faded like echoes in an endless tunnel. Communication was lost. Her cries were now hisses no one understood. In this silent prison, Nagini wandered the world, intelligent yet voiceless, aware yet alone. Until one day, she met someone who could finally understand her language. Meeting Voldemort. When Nagini and Voldemort's paths crossed, both were shadows of what they once had been. The encounter likely took place in the forests of Albania sometime during the 1980s, a place already steeped in dark history. Voldemort, after his defeat by baby Harry Potter, existed only as a wraith, too weak to possess a body of his own. He drifted from host to host, feeding on snakes and small creatures to stay alive. It was during this aimless exile that he found her, or perhaps she found him. For the first time in years, Nagini met someone who could speak her language. Voldemort was a parcel-mouth, a descendant of Salazar Slytherin, capable of understanding every hiss and whisper she uttered. To Nagini, starved of communication and purpose, this was salvation. To Voldemort, she was a perfect ally, intelligent, obedient, and deadly. The two formed a symbiotic bond. Voldemort drew strength from Nagini's venom, using it in dark rituals to sustain his spectral form. In return, he offered her companionship and understanding, perhaps even a sense of belonging she hadn't felt since her human days. But Voldemort's need for her would soon grow darker, far beyond loyalty or friendship. Soulbound. Nagini's bond with Voldemort deepened into something far darker after his partial restoration. When he murdered the witch Bertha Jorkins during his exile, her death served a dual purpose. It fed his growing strength and provided the sacrifice needed to create another Horcrux. In that moment, Nagini ceased to be merely Voldemort's companion. She became the living vessel for a fragment of his soul. Creating a Horcrux required both intent and murder, an act so vile it split the soul itself. By embedding that shard within Nagini, Voldemort ensured her loyalty would be absolute. But this connection was not one-sided. A piece of his mind intertwined with hers, forming a psychic link unlike any other Horcrux he had made. She could sense his emotions, anticipate his will, and communicate without words. This fusion of master and creature slowly erased whatever remained of Nagini's independent will. Her instincts became his. Her kills served his ambition. Once a victim of a curse beyond her control, she was now chained by another, the darkness of Voldemort himself. And when the Dark Lord rose again, The serpent would rise beside him, the last Horcrux. As Voldemort's power returned, Nagini became his shadow and his sword. She slithered beside him during his rise, serving as both assassin and sentinel. Her presence terrified even Death Eaters, not only for her size and venom, but because she was clearly more than a familiar. Voldemort guarded her obsessively, keeping her near at all times, a living extension of his will and a safeguard for his fragmented soul. She struck when commanded, leaving no survivors. It was Nagini who attacked Arthur Weasley in the Department of Mysteries, nearly killing him before disappearing into the shadows. Later, she executed Charity Burbage, devouring the professor before the Death Eater's eyes. Her venom coursed through Snape's veins in the Shrieking Shack, ending his life as Voldemort's paranoia consumed all reason. But Voldemort's overconfidence proved fatal. During the Battle of Hogwarts, he sealed Nagini within a magical barrier, trusting none to guard her but himself. Yet the moment came when Neville Longbottom, wielding the sword of Gryffindor, severed her head in a single swing. With her death, the final Horcrux fell, and the serpent that had once been a woman finally found release from a lifetime of curses and servitude.